Hi everyone, it's Jen from Pretty Little Garden, and I'm just here today to update you on my dahlia tubers. I'm doing a beginner series. It's my first time growing dahlias this year, and I just want to share my experience with you. I'm at the point where I am potting up my dahlias. I purchased my dahlias from DutchGrown. I purchased them online. I received them in the mail at the end of March, and we were just about ready to go on a trip to Italy. And I was kind of nervous because it was literally, I think, the day before or 2 days before we were going to visit my son who's studying abroad. We had a great time. Spent a week in Italy, in Rome, visiting Aiden, and it was a really great time. We missed our son Everett though because he was in college and he couldn't take a week off. He had a different break time. So, anyways, I received the dahlia tubers. I think it was maybe 2 days before we left. And so I just want to share with you what I did. I'm in Zone 6B, Western New York. And I read the DutchGrown pamphlet, but I also looked online. And what I decided to do was, unbox my dahlia tubers. They were wrapped in, there was like 2 tubers in a plastic bag with some soil. So I ended up unwrapping each bag of tubers, and I removed most of the soil. And what I did was get a lunch paper bag, and I put like a little paper towel down. I shook off most of the soil, put 1 tuber down, and then put another paper towel and then another tuber down.
Okay, here are my dahlias from DutchGrown, and we are actually going out of town, so I just Googled because I didn't see anything in the instruction manual here of how to store them if I can't plant them right away. Plus, we are still getting some really cold temperatures. So I have this box. I think this was from tulips that I had. So anyways, I'm going to take each of these tubers, take them out of the plastic, put each one in a paper bag and label them, and then put them all in this box. It's got the holes on the side for venting. And then I'm thinking that when I come back from vacation, we're going to Italy, by the way. I'm so excited. I'm going to see my son. He's been studying abroad there since the beginning of the semester, so I haven't seen him since January. But anyways, when we return, I'm thinking that I'll be able to pot these up indoors until it's time to plant them outside. That's my game plan.
I did that because, I didn't want them to get damp and rot or get soggy or mushy on me while I was away. So I kind of removed everything that I thought would contribute to that. Excuse my dirty hands. I have been working in my garden today. I was just dividing some early bird catnip and just sort of rearranging it in this garden bed that I'm sure I will show you. But anyways, back to what I was saying. So I put each 2 tubers to a lunch paper bag, and then I had a large cardboard box that was vented, and I ended up putting all the tubers in that vented cardboard box so that they would get some air circulation, and they wouldn't be moist and dark and warm. It was still cold in my garage, and which can all contribute to rotting and losing your dahlia tubers. So I'll just give you a look at that. I did take some clips of that.
Okay, so the first one I'm opening here is the Hape or Hapet Blue Eyes. There's 2 dahlia tubers in here, and I'll show you what it looks like when I take it out of the plastic. Okay, here is what the first one looks like. This is my first time with dahlia tubers, so I don't know if I have much commentary. I'm noticing, this one right here kind of looks like it's hanging by a thread. That's not good. This one here looks pretty good. I don't know if I've identified any eyes, but I think this will be okay. You guys can leave me comments if I'm missing something, but I'm going to put it in the paper bag. Okay, so I've got my other tuber here. I just want to be very careful with handling it. Feels pretty good. Nothing feels too dry or mushy. I think they feel like they should feel, as far as I know. I'm still fairly new. Actually, not fairly new. I am new to dahlias. So what I decided to do, I did a quick Google search, and I'm going to put them in 2 per bag in like a little lunch bag. And I'm actually going to separate it by 1 paper towel. So I got one in there at the bottom. We'll put the other one on top. And the paper bag will kind of keep them dry. And, you know, there's like a little bit of soil in here. I figure I'll dump it in here. You know, just for some added protection there. And I'm just going to kind of loosely crunch it. Just kind of like that. So it'll still get some circulation. And then I'm just going to put them right in that box there. Okay, I'm going to do the next one. Okay, so I just double checked myself on the use of the plastic, and the use of the soil in here, and they said not to use it. I just Googled that, so maybe I can take it out of that other one. But this next one I'm going to open up is Cafe au lait twist. There's 2 dahlia tubers in here. Let me get another paper bag. All right, let's check out what Cafe au lait looks like. Again, hopefully that one's not broken there. No, I think it's okay. They feel firm. They don't feel mushy, or they're not too wrinkled. I don't know if that's considered an eye, or those little spots there maybe. Okay, I'm going to gently place that in my bag. And this time I am not going to, I'm not going to use the soil that's in the bag. It said that the soil that's, that they come packaged in is probably holding some moisture, so you don't want to add excess moisture to your situation right now while you're storing them. The key is that you want them to remain clean and dry. Here is the other one. I don't know if that little neck is feeling kind of delicate, but I think it's hanging on. I mean, this one for sure is. Looks like that's a little eye right there. And another little eye there. So we're going to put that one. I just separated them with a paper towel. And again, just going to give them a little crunch. They do have some little bit of airflow, but it's not completely opened, and it's not completely closed. Just add that one in there, and we'll keep on going.
So I came home from Italy. I didn't tend to those dahlia tubers right away. They kind of sat in my garage probably for another week or so. And then I realized I have to start moving with them. The weather started to warm up. It was actually, we've been really up and down here in Western New York, which is so typical. I mean, I think I always act surprised every year, but so typical in our area for our spring. We do get a lot of rain in the springtime, but we get a lot of up and down temperatures. And we did even recently have 2 nights where it got down into the 20s. We've had a little bit of snow in the last couple of weeks. I think we're pretty much on our way out of that. There might be one more night that's like gets down to like 32. Um, my our last frost date is mid-May. Usually everybody is really planting on more Memorial Day weekend. That's usually when in my zone, in my area, that's when everybody is feeling like, we're free from any danger of frost. Um, but anyway, so I, was thinking, okay, what do I have to do next? My garage was starting to warm up, and that was a concern because I still had them in the bags, in the boxes, and I started to look at them, and ooh, I was getting a little nervous because some of them were shriveling. There were a couple that didn't look good, so I originally had thought maybe I could keep them in that box until I planted them. I was really kind of like trying to do that, I guess, because I didn't want to like do more work than I needed to. But then other, YouTubers that I watch, advise you to pot up your dahlia tubers. I just sent my husband back in the house. I have been waiting all day to kind of videotape myself, just updating you on my dahlias. And I love my husband. He's so helpful. He's been power washing all day. Um, the patio around the pool, our backyard patio, the sidewalk, and this was like the first few moments that I had that I could talk in silence. And then he came back outside and he wanted to bring out the patio furniture, which I really appreciate. But I said, no, no, give me 15 minutes. 15 minutes outside by myself. Thank you. Okay, anyway, so just to update you, I checked on my dahlia tubers again. I started to look at them and realized that I did have, several broken necks on the clumps. And so I ended up bringing all of them inside one day in this past week. I brought maybe it was last week, brought all of them inside. And I worked at my kitchen table because I think it was a really chilly day. We've had several still chilly days. Today's actually a really beautiful, pretty day. It started off cool, but I think the high is 61 today, and it's pretty sunny out. It's really nice. So anyway, that day I did go through all the tubers, took them out of the lunch paper bags, and I clipped off any broken necks.
Okay, I can see. I'm just going to clean up all my tubers here. Just kind of cut off anything that's hanging, or I think I already cut off the broken neck on this one earlier in one of my other videos. So it looks like I've got 2 viable tubers here. See, here's the body of the tuber and the neck. And I think this right here is, if you can see, that is the eye and going to be the growth point that, new growth will grow from. So, okay, I think what I'm going to do is pot each tuber up. Yeah, this one looks ready to go. Great. Okay, so I'm just getting a pot that I think will work. So I have, this size pot for this size tuber, and this is considered the crown of the tuber. It's kind of like the main growth section where all the tubers connect, and that's, this is the general area where you're going to see your eyes. So I'm just going to make sure all of my crowns are pointing up. The eye necessarily isn't going to be pointing up, but I think I'm okay if I just, put it in the pot. I'm going to put some soil in first and then put it in, and then just, generally have the crown of your tuber clump pointing up. It doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily need to have your tuber, pointing down. The most important thing is that, your clump or your crown is pointing up. I also want to label, I almost forgot to label that one. So that was the Myrtle's Folly. So I made my plant tags, and I'm just going to be sure to label immediately so we're not forgetting what's what. And I'll be sure to try to show you, that was a pretty good tuber clump. I'll be sure to try to show you ones that don't look so good too. Okay, well, here's our next Myrtle's Folly. I'm just holding it by the crown. Let's take a look. Already this one right here, I mean, I would think that's broken. This one's definitely broken. So I'm gonna go ahead, and what I mean by broken is, this is the body of the tuber. You're looking for three things. You need a nice solid body of the tuber, okay, which is this. It looks like a potato or something like that. And then you have your neck, which is this part here, okay. And you can see here, this neck is kind of broken. So I'm going to be cutting that off. And then somewhere above the neck, you should see a growth point, a little knob, a little nub. Sometimes they're already growing, and that's called the eye. And that's where your new growth is going to happen. So you can see I'm going to cut this off because I think that's broken. And I just want to mention, again, I'm very new to this, so I might not be doing everything perfectly, but I have a general understanding and knowledge of what I'm supposed to be looking for and doing. So I just definitely want to share that with you. See right here, this one right here, that's another one that's like just flopping around. So I would think that is also a broken neck, and you can see I'm just going to cut that right down. And from what I'm learning, don't worry. I mean, you don't want to have a ton of broken necks. I think this one's also broken, even though that's a really nice tuber. I'm not going to worry about it though, because I do have one. I mean, this is a really tiny one, but it's 1, 2. I think this one is okay. 4. I probably have 4 on here. So don't worry if sometimes you have to cut off I'm going to cut that one off, because the problem is if you leave the broken necks on, see, this one kind of looks like it's vulnerable, but it's not really like floppy like the other ones. I think I might take a chance with that one and leave it on. But, oh gosh, I don't know. Let's look closer. I think that's broken, because you can see where it's separated from the top part. I don't know. What do you think? Comment below if you think this is a broken neck or if I can get away with it. I think I am going to cut it off though. I'm just going to cut it off because I have other ones that are viable. Like even this one here, it's a little bit shriveled, but that's just from being in those paper bags out in my garage. You don't want it to get too shriveled up, but just the process of potting them up will, and if I end up misting them with water, will rehydrate them, and they'll, get to more of a healthy state prior to planting out. So I think I'm going to call that good on this clump, and we're going to pot it up. All right, the next one is Mango Madness. Let's see what these are looking like. Ooh. Let's take a look. Well, they feel pretty good. Let's go through and see if we have any broken necks. I see one right off the bat here. This neck is broken, so I'm just going to cut that one off. And I think this one is also broken. So you can see how it's kind of going to get rid of that one as well. Oop. but you can see this one's firmly attached. This one here, firmly attached, as well as this one. This one looks really good. Even that one is firmly attached. This one here, I think, is another broken neck. I'm going to get rid of that one. This one, I think that one broke too. I'm going to get rid of that one as well. And I mean, I think this is pretty common, you know, that you have to, when you have a clump of dahlia tubers that's been mailed to you or overwintered even, you know, that you're definitely going to have to do some trimming and some editing down, you know, so you're left with your best tubers. Now, in terms of eyes, let me just show you what I see. So for example, for this one here, here's our tuber. Our neck, it's kind of a short neck, but it's in there and it's attached. And I think that is the eye right there. Let's see if I can locate another one. You know, here's a tuber, kind of a short neck, but even if I take my finger and just kind of run it up, I feel an eye here and an eye here. They're just the nubby little bits. Like I said, sometimes they're already growing. But, and you know, when they're already growing, they're a lot easier to see. I'm not sure what this is here. I think that was like a tuber maybe that, I don't know. Should I cut that off? I'm gonna cut that right off. See, because I think it was a tuber. At least I think it was, but we got rid of that because it wasn't complete. It was kind of like damaged on the one end. So, okay, I think I'm going to call this one good, and we'll continue going. We'll continue potting up. I hope this is helpful. This is, you know, like I said, I'm a beginner, but I've been doing a lot of reading online, a lot of research. So I'm hoping this can be helpful. You know, I always say this, that if you want to learn something, don't worry that you're not an expert. Just dive right in and start doing it. Start taking the action. You're going to make mistakes, no big deal, but you'll enjoy the process so much more than, you know, if you thought you had to be an expert beforehand. Just jump right in and start going. At least that's what works for me. And I just want to encourage anybody out there. If you have a desire to learn and grow dahlias, just do it. Just, you know, order some tubers, buy some tubers from a local person, and just get going with it. All right, guys. That is Mango Madness. You can see this pot is not big enough for this Mango Madness, so I do have a bigger container. This one should be okay. We'll use that for another tuber. And it's interesting that, you know, when you order your tubers, they're all different sizes. I mean, it just depends on the variety that you choose and how it grew that season, and lots of different variables. But anyways, this is a good size, this Mango Madness. So this is in I think this is this is a 1 gallon pot, and I'm just gonna, I need a little more soil in there before I cover it. And I'm just going to place it crown up, and cover it with soil. Maybe I'll do one more. We'll do one more together. And and just talk it through. And then I'll show you the end result of all my tubers potted up. And put it right in here with the rest of them. Okay, I'm just gonna grab the other Mango Madness. Now, okay, this is interesting. This is the other Mango Madness, so different than the first one. I mean, this one is like wacky looking. Okay, so I'm gonna identify the crown first. Here's the crown. You know, it's just that main stem kind of coming up, and it's where all the tubers generally meet. I'm already seeing a lot of broken necks on this one, so let's go through and do some editing, okay? So here we go. This is a broken neck. That one. Ooh, sorry. This is a broken neck. I don't think that's broken. It's movable, right? Oh, no, I think it did break. I'm not taking any chances because if you leave broken necks on, you can just damage the entire, that's even broken. Okay, this one's kind of a dud, but maybe not. I'm gonna take this one off too. I'm being very like proactive with, if I think it's broken, I'm just gonna take it off. You know, I was looking at them the other day and very hesitant to clip off the broken necks, but I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos and just reading about, you know, when the neck is broken, what it can do to the plant. And I just think I'm gonna just, you know, cut off anything that I think is broken. But now this kind of just looks so funky, doesn't it? But here's our crown. I think this is viable. I mean, this kind of thing looks like a tuber here, even sort of on the back. And then if we just kind of go up, do we see any nubby, like that's an eye, see right there? Let's go around and see if we see any other growth points. Like, I mean, that was for the one I cut off, but I think there's one right here. I think this is one there. There's one down here. So I think we're good. Obviously, I can use a smaller pot for this one. I'll use this other one. I mean, this is actually kind of big, but I don't think I have anything smaller right now. So I think I'm gonna just pot it up in this container here. I think it'll be okay. This is what I ended up with for the takeoff dahlia. I cut off several broken necks, but I did go back out to my shed and I got several littler containers because I think I am going to have, you know, some little ones too. So I think this one will be okay for now to get started in this container.
That's the one thing that I'm, you know, learning about the dahlia tuber clump. You know, you order this clump from wherever you order them from or wherever you buy them from. And there's really like three important things that are required in order to have a successful dahlia bloom is you need the tuber, which is like the little potato looking thing, and you want it to be firm. It doesn't necessarily have to be really fat, although the fat ones kind of make you feel like those are the healthy ones. But I have seen really skinny ones, but you want it to be generally firm, and then it has to be connected. There's a neck right at the top of that tuber, and then the neck has to be intact and not like cracked or, you know, no break in that tissue there. That has to be connected to the crown. The crown is like almost the old growth, the old stem. And on that crown is where all your little eyes are going to grow, and they're little like nubs or raised areas that you'll find around the crown. So I went through all my clumps, and I cut off all the broken necks and tried to identify, some eyes or growth points. And once I did that with all of them, I had a bunch of old pots in my shed, got those out with some potting soil, and I potted up all of my dahlia tubers. Um, the reason why you want to do that, because I thought to myself, why do I want to do that? It's like making more work for myself. Why don't I just leave them in the paper bags and wait and then plant them out? If you leave them in the paper bags, you can risk them drying out, because it starts to warm up and they don't have any soil, and you're generally not watering them in the paper bags. So that's one thing. And the other thing I learned is that you do kind of want to, especially in my zone 6B, Western New York, you want to kind of give them a head start if you can, because we don't have a long growing season. I mean, we start the end of May, and our last frost date is, or our first frost date is mid-October. So, we have kind of a short growing season. So another reason why you want to pot up your dahlia tubers is to give them a head start. So that's exactly what I did. I potted up all the tubers, and I actually brought them inside into my dining room. I put them on my dining room table. I'll give you a look at that. And I'm going to keep them there for at least, I would say, 3 weeks, and hoping by that time we have some good growth or a good starting point for me to plant them in the ground. And I've already checked on a few of them. They've been probably in those pots for maybe a week or so, and I can see some growth on several already. So that's a good sign. So, anyways, I just wanted to give you an update. I'll be sure to come back and, when it's time to plant them out. And if you have any comments about, the process that I'm going through, it's my first time, please leave your comments below, leave your suggestions below. And, I'm happy to share this process with you. And I encourage you to try dahlias for yourself if you haven't ever tried them. I'm excited, to see the blooms. The blooms are beautiful. I did buy several dinner plate dahlias, and really excited to see them blooming in my garden this year. So thank you so much, and I will see everyone very soon. Have a great day.